Hi, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another telecast of LA Gospel Beat. I'm Wayne Landry. I'm your host. We have a distinguished guest with us, someone I've been knowing for over 25 years. His name is Mr. Don Short, and I know some of you in the Lafayette area might know him. You see that his face is not an unusual face. He's been around for quite a while. Don and I met back in 1985. Gulf Coast Teaching Family Services, one of the most powerful, great supervisors that I've ever known in my entire life, a man of God, and he's here to tell us something about helping married couples, ladies and gentlemen, relationships, and I'm gonna let him get into all of that because that's his expertise. I'm Wayne Landry, I'm your host. Welcome to the show, Don.
Thank you, Wayne.
Yes, sir. Glad to have you, man.
Yeah.
We've been supposed to schedule this, but our
For
time.
several weeks.
Yeah, several weeks, yeah.
Well, thank you for having me here.
Yes,
and
sir.
and we've known each other for a long time.
Long time, yeah, very long.
25 years.
Yeah.
And,
Yes, sir.
I had worked at Gulf Coast for about 28
Yes,
years,
sir.
and
Right,
I
right.
retired from there
Yeah,
this past June.
this past June.
And I miss all the friends I made there, my employees, and
We became like
all the
family.
clients. Yeah, we were like family.
Yes, sir, yes, sir.
Well, a few years ago, I started my own counseling practice called AfterHoursCounseling.com.
Okay,
It's my website,
All right,
After Hours Counseling.
the website should be on the,
Yes,
yeah.
Yeah,
Sweet.
and I wanted to get away from running a large agency. I had done that for so long,
Yes, sir.
and I wanted to focus on helping people.
Right.
And I started just providing services in the evening, like from 5 to 8.
Okay.
Because a lot of people work during the day, they can't get off of work. I see a lot of businessmen, doctors, lawyers,
Okay,
professional people,
wow.
and just regular people too. And that's how I started. Now I'm doing it full-time, pretty much
Wow.
from 1 in the afternoon to 7 or 8 in the evening.
Okay, and how long ago you started?
Well, I started doing it full-time come June.
Okay,
Yeah.
but maybe 3 years? I
Yeah,
think?
about 3 years ago is when I
Years
really
ago.
started doing it.
Okay, and it's just kind of snowballed?
Well, just kind of
Yeah,
grown.
grew.
And
Okay.
and one of the I do a lot of relationship.
Okay, relationship.
I do premarital counseling.
Premarital conference before you get married?
Yeah, before you get married.
Yeah.
And
How long in advance before you get married?
some people are in a relationship, and you know how some guys are. They have a hard time making their mind to get married.
Oh, yeah.
But you still can have relationship problems even if you're not married.
Right.
So, and I see people some after they get married, but some will come to me before they get married, and they'll say they want premarital counseling.
Okay.
And I offer that. They come looking like for a little package, but
Right.
I don't do anything in a little package.
No, all right. Well, explain it to us.
Well, what that is everybody has different problems. We all
Yes.
are a product of everything that has happened to us from conception to present.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of us have trauma in our past.
Right,
Either
Baggage,
baggage, from childhood, from previous relationships.
Yes, sir.
And
You can't carry it not to interrupt you, but you cannot carry it into a new relationship, am I right?
well, you can, but you're going to pay a price.
Oh, well, that's why we shouldn't carry it.
That's why you shouldn't carry it.
Yes,
And
sir.
so what I do is I help couples or help individuals deal with some of their past issues, because a relationship is difficult enough
Right.
just day to day without bringing in past issues. And so what I do is I take a thorough history on all my clients and go over the issues that have been traumatic, and it could be physical, sexual, emotional
all of it,
abuse, the whole gamut, and when we deal with those issues, it prepares them to have a more healthy relationship.
So in other words, you're saying it's better to get it out in the open and now
Exactly.
before you get involved, because you really don't want no surprises?
No surprises, because trauma that's unresolved has this nasty habit of popping up when it's triggered.
Right,
You know,
right.
And the way you can tell if a trauma is being triggered is, let's take, for example, like anxiety,
Yeah.
like grief, like anger. When you see somebody in a situation where you look at them and something happens, and maybe that situation would call for, like on a scale from 0 to 10, maybe a level 2 anger, or level 2,
Right, right.
anxiety.
Right.
Because there's nothing wrong with those emotions. The problem is that when those emotions spike, and go from a 0 to a 10, but that situation should only be like a level 2.
Right.
Anxiety or anger. But when you see somebody spiking, then that means that there is something in their past that is.
You tapped into an area that.
You tapped into, you hit a nerve.
You hit a nerve.
And what I do is I help people find those nerves, and then we go back and we process that trauma, and what it does, it clears it, and it makes the relationship a lot easier for the person.
Because in actuality, from 2 to a 10 escalates just like that.
Yeah.
It's unnatural.
Yeah, it's unnatural, but the thing is, when you're carrying trauma, the trauma is stored in the amygdala part of our brain, and that is where our fight and flight mechanism. God gave that to us so we can respond quickly.
Right.
The problem is when you've been traumatized, is that part of your brain tends to look at things as more dangerous or threatening when they're really not. Sometimes if your girlfriend is saying something and you feel spiked, well, your brain gets feels like it's in danger, so your defenses go up.
Right.
And then what happens sometimes, if both have unresolved trauma, then they start going back and forth, and what happens, they both put up their defenses because it's an automatic response because they feel like they're getting attacked.
Right.
It's like, if you see a lion, your brain is going to spike because that's a lion.
Right.
The problem is when you got past trauma that's unresolved, is that you tend to look at pussycats as lions.
Right.
That's really a pussycat there.
Right.
But because of past trauma, your defenses are going up, and
Fear.
and your fear kicks in, your anger kicks in, your anxiety, which makes it difficult then to communicate. Because if I'm spiking, it's hard for me to connect with you.
Of course.
And if you're spiking, and I've seen this, I've seen couples in my office where you got both male and female spiking. Well, how much conversation can you have, or when you both are
Not very much.
defenses and building barriers because you feel like you're getting attacked?
Zero.
And so what I do is I'll bring down those barriers. A lot of times I'll meet with a couple as a couple initially, then I'll do a couple individual sessions, and then we deal with those issues.
Right.
Because what happens is when you deal with those issues, it increases your capacity to solve problems, to communicate, to love your spouse, to love God, to enjoy life.
That's interesting. I want to jump in right here for a moment. I want to kind of elaborate on something that I think that a lot of couples dealing with, a lot of married couples, a lot of relationship couples. Sometimes when a couple is arguing, and we get a lot of arguing in couples, that's only natural. Everybody argues, but it don't argue to the point of no return, to where you're angry and you want to kill up each other. And you want to fight, and you want to now you're throwing out all the dirty laundry,
Right.
And you definitely you're throwing it at each other because you're trying to nitpick and make the other person very mad and angry and get back at them, and always bringing up the past.
Yeah.
You deal with that?
Oh yeah. Well, see what happens. There's a couple things going on here. One is the past trauma, which is causing the person to spike, and when you're spiking emotionally, you're not listening.
Exactly. You're not listening at all. You done turned off.
Yeah, I mean, you done.
Gone. You shut down.
You shut down that part. Dealing with the past trauma, can address that. The other thing, what happens, men learn how to solve problems with their spouses by the way our dads solve problems with their moms.
Exactly.
You understand what I'm saying? So I've had a couple of guys. One guy, for example. What he does that aggravates his wife is when the wife confronts him about something, he just kind of gets real flustered and he leaves.
What you think about that? Before you move any farther, I mean, don't lose your thought.
No, but see what happens is what he's doing is what he knows.
But don't you think that's a good thing?
Well, no, because the thing is, what would have been better is that if he would learn to communicate and solve the problem. Of course, it's better for him to leave than escalate. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But the
Get
problem
physical.
is that, a lot of times, men and women copy the bad habits of their parents.
Yeah.
Or what
That's all
happens.
they see.
That's all they see. And so people, so I don't criticize people for what they do. I help them understand why they do it.
Right.
And so when you understand, husband, okay, this is why you're doing that. This is what your daddy did. The only problem is your mom stuck with them, and put up with that.
Through all the years.
The problem is the girl you're married to now, I don't want to put up with that mess, and wants to sit down with you and solve that problem.
Yeah.
And so what that is an example of is a skill deficit.
Okay.
You'll see, and sometimes another example is when kids see mom and dads who they never argue in front of the kids,
No.
and they act like they never have any problems. So the kid thinks perfect relationship. So when the son or the daughter then gets married or has a problem in their relationship, who can he talk to? Because like if you're my dad, I can't go and say, how should I do this? Because you're perfect. You understand what I'm saying?
I've never seen you argue first off.
I never seen you solve a problem because you don't have any problems. So who do I talk to?
Yeah, that's not good.
So I encourage parents to be transparent with their children, because what you're doing is you're teaching them how to communicate, how to solve their differences. The best gift you can give a child is ability to solve their problems. Not by getting mad and leaving, not by throwing things, not by threatening, but by sitting down and communicating. And that takes skill and practice doing that. So we look at what past trauma might be causing them to spike, and then we look at what bad habits have you picked up from mom and dad, and then we deal with that.
Okay.
I kind of like to look at it in three phases.
What is that?
The three phases is the past, which is what did you learn from your mom and dad? What kind of trauma? Those kind of things. And then we look at the present. Okay, what kind of bad habits are you doing in the relationship?
Right.
What kind of thoughts are you having? Are you having negative thoughts all the time?
That's a bad habit.
Being negative all the time? Or using words like always and never? Like, for example,
Give me a bad habit.
a bad habit is using the word always and never. And now some of y'all,
Always.
you're always late.
Yeah.
Or let's imagine, okay, you know my son, you know my son Benji, or any father that says something to their son like, you're always this.
You're
always that.
constantly using the word always.
Always, or you never be this, or you never be that. You see what I'm saying?
It's not good, degrading.
Well, and what happens when a parent is that way with a child, how is the child going to feel?
The way you make him feel.
The child is going to say after a while, well, why should I care?
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, I can't do anything right.
And that's a bad habit.
It's a bad habit. You never, and also when you use never and always, we're lying.
Never.
Because when you use the words never and always, nothing is never and always, except one thing.
What's that?
God will always love us and never forsake us.
I know that.
Okay.
I don't want them to know that.
That is never, and when it comes to God, never and always works. But
That's right.
when it comes to your children, to your spouse, to anything else, get rid of the never and always.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are having a great time here. We're talking about relationship, marriage. If you just stepped in, flipping the channels or anything of that sort, kick back, relax, and enjoy. We have with us Mr. Don Short, a marriage counselor through marriage and relationships, and we've been elaborating on how to fix bad habits, relationships, marriages, and whatever. And if you need to contact him, his website is on the air, is on the screen, and we know we only have X amount of time, but we're going to have him back to do part 2. But in the meanwhile, just kick back, relax, and enjoy the show as he continues to elaborate on his expertise. Continue.
Okay. Now, remember, we talked about 3 phases, past, and then present. We have to look what's going on in the present.
Right.
The problem with a lot of people don't have much present in their life.
Yes,
they don't have much of a present because the past keeps intruding. And when you got all that past intruding, how can you enjoy the gift that God has given us today?
That's a danger zone.
When we have all that stuff, so
Yeah,
we want
You can't move forward.
what the past keeps moving forward. What we want is to enjoy the present. By get rid of by dealing with the past trauma, by learning some good habits, and by learning skills. You know what I'm saying? So we focus on what skills will make this relationship stronger. And when I talk relationships, I'm not just talking about. I'm talking about marriage, of course. I spend most of my time with relationships, but the same is true with parent-child. In the Bible, it talks about fathers don't provoke your children to wrath.
Right.
Well, that's a father who is constantly being critical of their child. It's a relationship built on rules and no relationship.
Yes, sir.
And when you try to build any relationship with all rules and no investment in the relationship, it's going to be a relationship where there's be a lot of hurt and a lot of bitterness. So we talk about the present, and then the other thing we talk about is the future. What kind of future you want? Because if you don't have a vision as to what your future is going to be like, or like next time when you have stress in your future, how are you going to handle that? Because what happens is when we're under stress, the automatic brain kicks in with a solution. And the automatic response is generally a bad habit. So what I do with couples is, okay, when this happens in the future, how do you want to respond? I deal with clients, who have problems with their spouses, problems with adult siblings, adult kids who get into arguments with their dad. So what I do is I role play with them. Okay, this has been your pattern, and it's based because of the abusive relationship between you and your dad growing up. And now in the present, you and your dad is always getting into an argument. Okay, we dealt with the trauma. We're working on new skill. But then, okay, next Wednesday when you see your dad, and you and your dad have a history of just he belittles you, then you belittle him, and then you get mad and you leave. Now what happens is that a young girl, the adult girl, needs to learn a new skill. When dad starts talking, negative, instead of just leaving, because if you have an abusive father and you just leave, what's the abusive father going to say? You're going to say, well, see, there she goes again.
You always leave.
Well, abusive dad will blame the daughter.
Right.
Okay? But what the daughter needs to say is, Dad, if you're going to talk to me that way, then I'm going to leave.
Right.
Or if you're going to talk to me this way, then the conversation's over.
Well, I would prefer for you not to talk to me.
Or I prefer you not to talk, but if you continue to talk this way, the conversation's over. In other words, what you're doing is you're setting a boundary.
Right.
You're not being mean or ugly, but what you're doing is you're setting a boundary. Because what happens if that girl just leaves, then the dad who's being a jerk is going to blame the girl for being irresponsible.
He felt that he won.
He feels that he won. That's a kind of a narcissistic person, and he is going to frame it in a way that means.
He got the ups on him.
Yeah, but what I'm working with that girl to do is to say, Dad, and when I say this, I do it in a respectful way, and I role play with her. I act like her dad, and she practices with me. You see what I'm saying? Because what I want her to do is she is tired of being like her dad. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And what they're doing is they're clashing. And I see this in a lot of relationships. Yeah. And what happens is I'm teaching her how to set boundaries. You can't change your dad. No. Your dad can only change if he wants to change.
But you can change the moment.
But you can change the moment, and you can change yourself, because no child should be abused by their parents. You see what I'm saying? So I teach her the skill. In the future, when your dad does this, this is how you get out of the situation in a way that doesn't escalate and in a way that you feel safe. Because the important thing is that we feel safe.
Exactly.
You see what I'm saying?
That's the key.
But see, what happens is when we don't know how to exit a problem, what happens? We get angrier.
Very angry.
We build resentment, and it's like you're stuck in a maze and you can't get out of it. Right. You feel lost. Yeah. And so what we do is we teach them a skill. Okay, if your dad does this, if your mom, I've had it where a brother had to stand up to a brother.
I was just about to ask you about that, about siblings relationships.
Yeah. Well, the same thing. I had this one guy who was his brother always wanted him to go out drinking. Okay, but he felt he had an alcohol problem, and plus he wanted to be home with his wife. But his brother, who was a much stronger personality, after work he said, "Let's go out drinking." But he would say, "No, I want to go home and spend time with my wife." And of course, what does the brother say? Well, your wife sure keeps you on a short string, so the brother demeans him.
Right.
Okay, and so so what he would do is give in. So I role played with him. Okay, after work, because this is a trap that he would always fall in. Right. And I say, okay, when your brother says this, just say, "No, I need to go home, spend time with my wife." And then, of course, then he's going to come back and say, "Well, your wife, sure keeps you on a short leash." Right. And I said, "You know what? I love my wife. I'm going to go home and spend time with my wife, and then leave. Don't get into a discussion. Don't get mad."
Just do it and leave.
Just set the boundary, because if you just get mad and leave, then the person who is giving you a hard time feels like they won. Exactly. But what you want to do is define what's going on here and say, "You know what? I love my wife, and I'm going to go home and spend time with her."
Yeah, now, Max, we got about 3-4 minutes left. What state of mind would that leave him in, the aggressor?
Well, see, the thing is, in all honesty, I don't care about the aggressor. I care about my client. The state of mind that the aggressor is going to be in is he's going to realize, he or she's going to realize that I'm not in control of this person.
Exactly. That's what I want. That's
right.
the point I wanted my viewers to see.
Yeah, because
so that they'll know.
What I want, the person who hasn't been in control is that daughter with her dad and this guy with his brother, and they tend to be more passive and not quite as strong of a personality. And so I'm teaching them to have backbone. Stand up to people that try to make you do things you shouldn't do.
Right, so they won't become victimized.
So they don't become victimized because they hate it. Right. None of us want to be victimized. No. But we need to teach our children how to stand up to people who are trying to get us to do things that we shouldn't do. Right. And there's ways of doing it without getting angry, without losing control. And it's just by setting boundaries.
Is there such a thing as reverse psychology?
Yeah, I use that.
He does.
But that's kind of a little bit different. But what this is setting and maintaining healthy boundaries. Okay. Because when you do that, then you are saying, "This is who I am." Right. When you're giving, if I give in to you all the time, and you're controlling me, then you are defining who I am.
Exactly. And eventually you're going to destroy me.
Exactly. And so what I am saying, Dad, brother or whoever, I'm saying, no, you're not going to define me. You may have defined me in the past and allowed you to get away with it, but you're not going to define me anymore. I'm defining myself, and I'm defining myself as a Christian, through my relationship with God. Amen. Because when I have my relationship with God, I know who I am, and I'm not going to let a brother push me, into drinking or being angry.
Amen.
Okay.
Don, we're gonna have to shut it down right here, but we're gonna bring you back for part 2. Or are you willing to come back?
I'll be glad. Thank you for having me.
Hey, by all means, man.
And you've been a friend for a long time.
Oh, man,
and I appreciate you.
Yes, sir. I really enjoyed this. We're gonna do part 2. As you can see, we're winding up. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Don Shaw. We'll have him back in 2 more weeks so we can continue this conversation. I've gotten blessed listening to him and getting a lot of knowledge, and I hope you do the same. So tune in on Tuesday nights at 9 p.m. on AOC Acadiana Open Channel 16, right here in Lafayette, Louisiana. Ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, until next time, America, you be blessed.